The sad girl. She's pretty, but she doesn't see it. She's smart, but not too smart, and doesn't speak much, doesn't leave her room, let alone her house, and yet she can't bear to stare at the walls all day. Sometimes she distracts herself with alcohol, drugs, and promiscuity. A quote from Leah Johnston states that the sad girl asks us not how we can grow to feel good about ourselves, but how we can make our pain look good. The sad girl is a trope that portrays women, more so teenage girls and young adults, as self-sabotaging, utterly and entirely depressed, with maybe a touch of some past trauma. Alas, they live enraptured by aesthetics and are consumed by appearances. This trope is mainly shown to us through the mediums of music, literature, and film, and this begs the question of how different types of media work to shape the sad girl. Some popular musicians that fit into this category are Mitski, Mazzy Star, Fiona Apple, Phoebe Bridgers, and the list goes on. But maybe the most quintessential and pinnacle of all sad girls in music today is Miss Lana Del Rey. The majority of her discography revolves around her tragic romances, melancholy, and experiences of her painful youth, all while painting herself in classic Hollywood charm. She draws some very apparent inspiration from past icons like Sylvia Plath, Marilyn Monroe, Priscilla Presley, and Amy Winehouse, to name a few. Lana's sad girlness can be evidently seen just by looking at the titles of some of her songs. Sad Girl, Lolita, How to Disappear, Pretty When You Cry, This Is What Makes Us Girls, and Summertime Sadness all have extremely sad girl energy. Through her music, she has collected a huge following of fans who idolize her and therefore want to be like her. Examples of this manifested in real life are a young woman being open to the idea of substance use and abuse, catering to the male gaze, smoking cigarettes, eating disorders, and having a significantly older romantic partner, which has its own can of worms I won't be dissecting here. Young and impressionable young girls see all these behaviors, see how cool it is, how Lana has gained popularity for it, and employ these behaviors in their own lives. But is this Lana's fault? Are these artists perpetuating this harmful archetype, or are they simply creating art genuine to their own experiences? Then is the blame to be cast upon the cultish, toxic fan bases that distort and over-romanticize their work? Or are they too simply seeking solace in songs that are able to display how they feel in such a beautiful way? I mean, who doesn't want to sob while listening to gut-wrenching lyrics sung by a smooth-sailing voice? Music is a means to cure the soul. Didn't Oscar Wilde say that you should cure the soul by the means of the senses? So where should we draw the line between connecting with authentic lyrics and a gross glorification of the artist's pain? Perhaps the oldest form of media, novels, poems, prose, and other forms of writing have had their own ways of portraying the sad girl for quite some time. If you Google sad girl books, a plethora of titles come up. Some of the most popular ones including My Year of Rest and Relaxation, The Bell Jar, Normal People, Milk Fed, A Girl is a Half-Formed Thing, Girl Interrupted, etc., etc. But maybe the most romanticized of them all is Jeffrey Eugenides Virgin Suicides. Even the title itself alludes to the contents and themes of the novel in a candid way. Presently, it's been popularized by Sofia Coppola's 1999 adaptation of the novel. We'll get into Coppola later on, but for now let's focus on the writing. The novel is about the claustrophobic suburban lives of 5 sisters and their suicides. Since the book is from the perspective of the neighborhood boys, who idolize the girls, the way in which they are represented is clearly warped from the start. When looking at how one of the sisters, Lux, is described by the boys, we see how this romanticization becomes bitter. Described as a carnal angel, Lux is praised by the boys for her sorrow and the coping mechanisms she used to wrestle with said sorrow. This continues the glorification of these sad girl habits, whether it's intended or not. Now with Lana, she talks about her very personal life experiences, but with authors, while some do draw great inspiration from their own lives, much more can be fabricated to support their writings. By this fabrication, I don't mean to say that if one does not have a first-hand experience of something, their interpretation or expression of it is wrong or false. I'm more so pointing out that these experiences of girlhood are not authentic and can only remain as mere interpretations. This deepens the conversation of romanticization, because if the writing is not coming from a genuine place of lived experience, does the perpetuation of the sad girl become increasingly harmful with no good root cause? It's not like the very male author wrote this novel as a way to grapple with the struggles he underwent growing up as a girl. So is him writing about it, showing self-destructive ways in which teens live, a valid thing to do? Not even mention the fact that he's capitalizing off it as well. But maybe some girls read books like these and find comfort in characters like Lux. And hey, maybe his writing is helping to shed light on troubles faced by girls in their youth to a wider audience. So, who am I to judge? Maybe the most aestheticized of all sad girls are the ones found in film and TV. There is an element of visual appeal that is not apparent in the other forms of media we've looked at. Sure, reading works and listening to music can set an atmosphere and tone, but watching an actor embody a sad girl is a whole other thing entirely. A filmmaker, aforementioned, who's kind of made this whole sad girl trope her entire brand is Miss Sofia Coppola. Her films usually revolve around a young female protagonist who struggles with loneliness, teenage angst, and fitting in with social hierarchies. This is evidently shown in her works Lost in Translation, the aforementioned Virgin Suicides, Marie Antoinette, and most recently with Priscilla. Now, while I don't think Coppola is at fault in a harmful portrayal of women, to reinstate, it's more so the cultish following that takes her work and really milks it for all its sad girlness. Additionally, online, one of the most idolized sad girl figures is Effie Stoneham from the TV show Skins. So I googled her character description, and I don't think I could have put it in better words, so I'm gonna read it out now. So this is what Character.com has to say about her. She may only be 15, but she isn't intimidated by anything. No matter how sketchy, dank, or rough an area she's in, Effie stays cool and collected, with a wiry smile on her face and a cigarette between her lips. Now, having watched the show, I don't know if cool and collective are the right terms to describe her, but I concur. Effie, very similar to Lana and Lux, remedies her sadness with substances and sex, all while making sure to be tragically beautiful about it. Are we picking up on a pattern here? Okay, yeah. She's messy and depressed and pretty and promiscuous and absolutely revels in her youth. The lifestyle she entertains is clearly not a very sustainable one, but boy does it look enticing. This visually aesthetic allure to harmful behaviors can be damaging to its intended audience of teenagers. This is apparent to me in how Effie and other characters like her are treated in online spaces. On social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram, I'm constantly seeing posts about how young girls, like myself, compare themselves to these so-called sad girls. That brings in the paradox of, is it that they actually relate to them in an authentic way, or is it more a desire to be like them, and in doing so they manifest themselves to share similar qualities that would have not been present if they'd never watched the show or had seen the film? Because the sad girl has pretty much become its own genre now, all of them are fairly interconnected if you really look at it. You can't have Lana Del Rey without Sylvia Plath, Coppola without Lux Lisbon or Priscilla Presley. And I also think that it's important to note that the media portraying these sad girls has been around for like decades. This is a trope that is not new to our society, it's just more so been going by different labels historically. Examples of that is the hysterical woman in the Victorian era, the tragically gorgeous figures from Greek mythology, and more. The sad girl has been around and probably will stay for a while. For me, this brings into question how could we and should we stop this harmful showcase of girlhood due to its negative impacts on young women? Personally, I think that this opens up the conversation to the more broader one of censorship. As soon as we start to censor what is deemed allowed in media, the world becomes very 1984 to me. And of course, I'm not saying that we should have no censorship anywhere ever. I'm not telling you to go let your toddler watch Pulp Fiction, but generally, as a society, when we start to say that this and that shouldn't be shown, read, or heard, we silence individuals' rights to share their experiences. So, while I don't believe that there is any kind of direct solution to this over-romanticization and gross glorification issue, I present the encouragement of people, and in this instance, impressionable young teen girls, to think critically about how they consume media and why they are drawn to the sad girl archetype. Constantly seeing media regarding certain topics may subconsciously normalize them in your mind, and you might find yourself actively looking for said topics in your own life. Now, I'm not saying to refrain entirely from interacting with this media that showcases the sad girl, but to acknowledge that the themes and subject matters are nuanced and not always meant to be taken at face value. But hey, maybe I'm just a hypocritical style over substance sad girl myself, so should you really trust my word? Okay, bye.